Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Welcome to season 4, episode 12, the first episode of 2025. We're in Bali again, of course, because this is where I'm living. And today's conversation, kindly in a villa for the second time with my man, Conrad. So welcome.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on.
As everyone knows, 10 rapid fire questions, nice quick answers. Let's get into it. Number 1, would you rather do one a month, a high rocks race or a half marathon for a full year?
High rocks.
Number 2, never do fitness or never lift weights again?
Never lift weights again.
Number 3, favorite protein source?
Whey protein.
Number 4, what's a quick lesson for the audience?
You are here to win.
Love it. Number 5, talk to your future self or your past self?
Past self.
Number 6, train only when it's humid or when it's windy?
Shit. Humid.
Fucking humid sucks. Number 7, if you weren't coaching, what job would you do?
I'd be a professional rugby player.
Number 8, do you think the industry is coach versus coach or coaches versus our clients' unobtained goals?
Coach versus clients' unobtained goals.
Number 9, music or no music when training?
No music.
Number 10, New Year's resolution. Are you like them, yes or no?
Yep.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Sick. A coach for me is someone that has gone through a situation that they allowed themselves to get through their work ethic. They've gone from A to B. They've realized they've been able to do it themselves. They have a burning desire inside than to coach other individuals. That's the basis of what I think a coach is. We're no better than anyone else. We're just someone who's been through something and can help others that don't think they're able to get through it. What made you become a coach?
What made me become a coach was really just the love of fitness, health, training. It was really the only thing I was good at, to be honest. Growing up, very sport heavy, rugby particularly, and that kind of fell out the window when I was about 20, 21, 22, just due to a few pretty serious injuries. Had a couple of years just back to back where I couldn't play rugby. So my dream of being a professional rugby player was pretty much gone, and I needed to find what my next step was. And the only thing that I was good at was training, was fitness, was health, was obviously training myself, getting myself to a certain level, and then finding a love with being able to do that for other people as a coach does. So that's what got me into coaching. And then obviously coaching is such a big passion of mine today. It's just seeing people win. It's just seeing people transform their life through training, through nutrition, through having a bit of a mindset shift as well with a few things. That is why I'm such a passionate coach, because ultimately seeing people's lives turn completely around through health and fitness is what I'm passionate about.
Dude, such a cool answer that I had 3 or 4 things pop up in my mind whilst you were just taking us through that. The first thing, I would love for you to talk about going all in on something and then being completely taken out of it. So for instance, rugby and the injuries. I'm sure there's so many people that are listening or watching they have a sense of relatability to a scenario where they wanted something and were forced otherwise. If you're comfortable, can you run us through what that experience was like?
At the time, it was definitely the hardest sort of period of my life. Looking back now, it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. Took me a while to figure that out, obviously. But at the time, to put things into perspective, I wasn't the best at school. I didn't really listen in class. Not that I was bad, but I just wasn't, there. Rugby was my only outlet for a lot of my early, teens and early 20s. And then trying to make it, especially in Australia at that time, getting paid, professional, especially in rugby union, is so tough. Um, so, you know, at the time having to work, I was actually working as a labourer for plastering, construction sites, training in the morning, work all day, training in the afternoon, playing obviously on the weekends. Um, and my whole dream was to get a professional contract and obviously kick off my career. So having that taken away at that time, where it was really the only thing I loved and the only thing I wanted to do, was definitely very hard, because at the time I was working a job that I hated, didn't love the construction industry, working around, just not the best environment and stuff like that. And then on top of that, like at this time, it was 20, 21, 22 years old. All of my friends that I grew up playing schoolboys with and stuff like that, they're starting to kick on and get contracts and stuff like that, where I was out for 12 months where I couldn't train, couldn't do anything. So I felt like I just wasn't going anywhere. And that was a really hard period of my life, because it was like letting go of my dream. And it was the only thing I felt at the time I was good at, I could do, and I could actually, pursue a career in. So I guess the aftermath of hanging up the boots and not playing was very tough, because I was a bit lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I couldn't train, which is the hardest thing. That's like meditation for me. And I slowly found my way again. I had to just fall back on, what I loved, which was training, which was health, which was fitness. So slowly came back, being able to train again. But I still didn't really accept it for, I would say, a couple of years, because I was still young. I was still, lost. Didn't really have something to fall back on and a direction to follow through. So at that time, it was very, very tough. But like I said earlier, looking back now, it was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it forced me on the direction and the path I'm on today. And without that injury that forced me to stop playing, I had a head knock, and I had headaches every day for about 12 months. So it was called post-concussion syndrome. Even a glary day like this would give me a headache. Listening to loud music would give me a headache. Driving a car would give me a headache. So that was like for 12 months. And like looking back now, it was the best thing that could have happened to me, because if I didn't have that head knock, I would have kept trying to play until I was 27, 28, 29, right? And kept trying to crack it, when if I look back, yes, I was a good player, but was I at that caliber to be a professional? Probably not. It was probably the only thing that I just latched onto at an early age that I saw value in, and then I felt good doing and playing, and I loved being around a team sport, team environment. But yeah, without that injury forcing me to stop, I probably wouldn't have stopped. I probably would have kept playing. Because I am a very stubborn person as well. Like when someone tells me I can't do that, or I'm not going to do this, I just won't listen. I'll say, no, fuck you, I'll show you. So I kind of think of it now, and it's only the past probably year and a bit that I've realized it was just the universe literally showing me and telling me what needs to happen, because I'm so stubborn that I wouldn't have listened to anyone otherwise.
There's a quote that I looked into recently that says the greatest tragedy of life is that it has to be lived forwards, but it only makes sense in reverse. And that's that idea that you with the footy, at that time it would have been, why is this happening? Why me? Why is my dream not working out? But now with the hindsight reflection back to it all, you feel like it's for a reason. It makes sense. It was what was supposed to happen. This might be a stumping question, and I agree wholeheartedly with the mindset you have that it's for a reason. But I got asked a question once that really stumped me in the moment, and it was such a holy fuck type of question. Do you feel like it happened for a reason, or do you feel like you've attached a reason to it happening to help you move forwards with a better pathway?
No, it happened for a reason, 100%. Um, and yeah, as I mentioned before, it's just put me on the path that I'm on now. A big personal development path as well, come off the back of that, because I had to figure out, like, what the fuck do I want to do? Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? What impact do I want to have? And figuring all of that out throughout that journey obviously left me questioning a lot of things and figuring what path I actually wanted to take. And at the time, like 20, 21, 22, I mean, I was lost. I was lost, didn't have much guidance, direction, partying, all that sort of stuff, just as you do. But coming out of that, like 23, 24, 25, really like changed. I was really changing myself a lot because I could feel internally how I was acting or who I was or some decisions I was making at the time just weren't resonating with me, and I could really feel that because I know and I truly believe, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for more. I believe everyone is here on earth to do something, and it was just tapping back into what that is and figuring that out. And I think that's why it happened for a reason, because that is the reason, me figuring out what my mission is.
Yeah, I love that. Why did you have that moment with yourself where you were going down pathway A of partying and misalignment and not being truly who you now feel like you are? Like, how did you pull yourself out of that? Because there's so many individuals I'm thinking of right now that have that potential. They're just on the wrong path, doing the wrong things, staying with the wrong people, just not living up to who they could be. If they just chose the other pathway, they could be something fucking amazing. How did you make that decision for yourself?
Like I mentioned before, like I could feel something internally, right? Like, let's say I was pissing around and wasting my potential, because my potential is something that I believe in. So if I'm going against something that I believe in and I'm wasting that potential by going down the wrong path and doing stupid shit and, not aligning myself with what that potential is, internally that it does something to you, like it did for me. Like I could feel myself just wasting who I was, who I wanted to become. And I think it starts with having that belief. So you need to truly believe that you're here for a reason. You need to truly believe that you have this potential. Because if you don't, then that's when you're lost. Then that's when you don't have that second opinion or that second voice saying, hey mate, like what the fuck are you doing? You're more than this. Because if you don't believe in that potential that you do have, that voice isn't there, or those thoughts, those questions aren't there. You'll continue cruising and being, lost. Which, it's not something that's like bad or good or like wrong or right. You just have to understand, I think, a deeper understanding of who you are and what you want your life to be. I think that's where it starts. And I'm big on that belief. Like that is where a lot of my passion comes from, with coaching, with clients, with my mission, with everything I do at the moment. I truly believe that I'm here to win. I'm here for a reason. And I think I've just always had that. Like I've always had something in me pushing me towards that potential, or pushing me towards something bigger, something better, something greater, something more.
You said with the decisions you were making, you had minimal role models around. Does that, or do you feel like that's cultivated any of why you are a role model for people, why you coach people?
Absolutely. I think, like growing up, I come from a big family. I'm one of 7. And like, I think growing up, I would probably categorize my childhood or our family as pretty chaotic. Obviously, 7 kids, that's a lot. But there was a lot of arguments, fights, and disagreements as there are with families and stuff like that. But my parents split up when we were quite young, and that kind of separated a lot of us. Me and my brother would live with my dad. My other siblings would live with my mum and stepdad and stuff like that. So we were always quite separate, which was, I guess, a challenging time, like young and growing up and wanting to have that close-knit family. And then, just growing up in different environments, there were a lot of parties and alcohol and stuff like that and fights that I was either watching, seeing, or involved in myself. Like it was pretty chaotic. So that having that sort of environment to grow up in definitely shapes me today, because I know kind of what role model I want to be and why it's so important to have that discipline, direction, and I guess support there, so you are making those better decisions, or you are more disciplined and staying focused on certain things, which I think for a long time was lacking in my childhood. And like I'm not saying that I had a terrible childhood or anything like that. It's just how things were. And I think a large part of my life as well, growing up, I kind of resented that. I was embarrassed a little bit. I struggled with it, to be honest, a lot. Like dealing with it, I didn't really deal with it much, and that's why I would turn to drinking. I would bottle some stuff in, and I used to get into a lot of fights and stuff like that, just because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to express my emotions, and I would try and bottle stuff in, and then it would just pop and come out in certain different ways. I think having all of that and going through all of that, definitely now I understand why it's so important to be an important role model for other people. And I think it 100% helps me as a coach as well, because it just taps into that passion that I have, like passion for helping people, not just their health and fitness goals, but who they are as a person. That's a big passion of mine.
And I love all of what you just shared. And I was sort of that idea that anyone who goes through something growing up, you either come something because of, or you come something because of. So for instance, around alcohol, I became an alcoholic because my father was an alcoholic, or I didn't drink and don't like alcohol because my father was an alcoholic. And it's the hero or villain is what the dynamic of that's called. Why go down that route then of turning that experience into something positive? So I grew up with split parents too. I understand that idea of going from one place, going to the other, there being divide, and there being everything together is a completely different experience to things being separated down the middle. I actually can't articulate what that feeling is, but it is definitely a feeling. But why take all of that and turn it into such a positive direction? Like, no role model, all that chaos. Why then create order that you have now, structure, being a role model? Like, where does that decision and that want come from?
It came over time. I think I definitely had role models in different forms, and I think what I'm thinking just quickly here is something that I have learnt more recently in the past couple of years. So the relationship with my older brother for a long time wasn't the best, and it wasn't the best for a few reasons, mostly just because of fighting and arguments. And I think the separation that my parents had really affected my older brother a lot, because he was at an older age. He could understand it a little bit better. But we kind of separated a little bit. I didn't like who he was because of the actions and things that he was doing. But the reason why I say he's a role model is because I could see firsthand one route, one direction that he was going. And I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to have those same actions or have those same decisions that he was making. And it's actually been a void in my life that has really progressed me and shaped me into who I am today. Because for so many years, I really did feel upset, angry, resentment for not having a very close relationship with my older brother, because he's my older brother. Like, I'm always going to love him.
Yeah.
I always looked up to him. I'm always so proud of him, all of that stuff, right? But for a long period in my life, I had that resentment there, that embarrassment. Whereas now I actually have to be so thankful for him. So thankful for him because I could see the direction that I wanted to go, right? Because if I think back to me wanting to have that close brother relationship where we're best friends, I needed to then probably adopt some of his decisions, personalities, hang out with his friends and what he was getting up to and all that sort of stuff, which would have led me, on a completely different path to where I am today. So in one aspect, he's been probably the most important role model for me. Obviously, through all that time, it's been hard to get to that period where I can realize that. And I used to carry a lot of baggage around because of that. But I was just unable to see both ends of that sort of scenario. So I think having that role model there for me to understand what path I want to take was probably the biggest role model I needed, to be honest. Because when you see a path that you don't want to go down, there's only one other path. There's no other decision. It's so much easier, and it's so much clearer. So, I mean, that helped me a lot. And I got to thank that whole relationship. I got to thank my brother for showing me that, because it's ultimately got me to where I am.
Man, that idea of starting a day, getting yourself through to B, and then being a role model as you are, trying to guide people, help people, and coach individuals. I always find it quite paradoxing that I'm sure you'd be happy with who you are today and the way you operate and think and go about your life, but it took you to go through a certain amount of shit to become who you are. It's like that idea that, so I had a great childhood with my mum. Mum's an absolute fucking weapon of a human. But we had things growing up like splitting, my father passed away and those types of experiences. I love who I am today, but I get so fearful with the thought of having kids because I love who I am and I wouldn't want a kid to go through what I've gone through. And I think on that idea that I could teach a child from who I am now, but would they become who they could become without going through a certain amount of shit? Do you feel like trauma and trouble is a positive helper or a regressor, and it's something that you wish people wouldn't go through?
Yeah, great question. It can definitely be both, but it depends on your mindset. It depends on the decision you make, because ultimately you've always got a decision to make, no matter what's happened, no matter what has happened to you or around you. Ultimately, that next step is all on you. So, yes, pain and trauma are massive influence for people who later have success because they're running away from that pain or they're running closer towards that success because they want to get away from that or move closer towards this. But for other people, they can get stuck in that pain and trauma and get consumed by it and get engulfed by it. And I think that's ultimately just down to a mindset. Because like life's fucking hard. Like, no doubt you've been through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Life's tough, and life's always going to be tough as well. There's always going to be shit happening. Like I'm only 29 and, I can't even imagine all the pain and trauma that I'm yet to still experience. But being able to have a better mindset with dealing with those pains and traumas, because I have dealt with a fair bit of pains and traumas in the past, it helps you to ease your mind a little bit. You know that everything's going to be okay eventually. Yes, there's going to be some hard shit to go through, but ultimately, you're stronger, you're more happier, you're probably a little bit clearer. It probably pushed you towards a certain thing that you never thought you would have loved. You never know. But it all comes back to having that mindset of, what can I do next? What am I going to do next? Rather than, fuck, like, I can't do anything. It's out of my hands, sort of thing.
Life is fucking hard. And I feel like that's what can make it easy. It is hard to wake up overweight. It is hard to get up and exercise. It is hard to feel shit from the easy foods you eat. It is hard to eat foods, but you feel good from it. Like, that idea of hard is unavoidable in every single situation. It's hard to put 30% of your income away each week for your taxes, but it's hard to pay your tax bill when you haven't put anything away. Like, I love that idea. And that's what made things so easy for me, that it's always going to be hard. You just have to choose what version aligns to you and feels best for you. What you were saying before leads to a great thing that I wrote down. People normally work from one of 6 places. Only one seems to be a positive backing engine. This comes to what I feel like successful people, where they work from. They either work from fear, self-resentment, self-respect, which is the positive, trauma, urgency, or they're forced. What one do you think you operate from?
Probably fear.
Explain it.
Yeah, I think fear. I mean, like, I think touching back on that belief that I have in myself, and the belief I have in the life I want to create, the belief I have with my potential, attached to that belief is going to be a fear of not hitting those things, not reaching that potential, not creating the life I want to live, not having that impact that I want to have. So I think because I have such a strong belief, I have such a strong fear as well, because of, okay, what happens if I don't hit these things? So I think I operate mostly on the fear of not achieving what I want to achieve, or the fear of not reaching my potential. I think that's why I would say fear probably dictates my driving force.
In the midst of, I did like a 3-year stint, and 2 of those 3-year massive stint of work, and 2 of those years I was clocking maybe 80 or 90 hours a week. And my biggest non-physical fear was failure. I remember, it's almost embarrassing to say now because of how I view life and the experience and how amazing it is. But I remember having a conversation with my roommate in our second house that we moved out to together at the time. And I was so scared of fear that I was putting myself through hell, because if I didn't see nonstop progress and growth, the option that I said to him is, I'd rather kill myself. And I say that like it was said so lightly at the time, which I'm almost embarrassed about now because it's so fucking silly. Like, if you fail, rebuild. If you fuck up, redo. If you don't learn, you can then learn. But the internal feeling I had at that time was, I have to fucking push forwards. And if I don't and things start to go backwards, I'm out. Like, I couldn't see any other way. I operated for so long from self-resentment, but in a positive way now, because I resented who I was becoming so much that I never wanted to be that human. So I changed. So the coaching I do now is future self. It's about showing up for your future version. But it's also backing on the idea of self-respect. We do coaching a little bit different, which I'm really fucking keen to get into. The way I coach is self-respect rules all. You can go backwards for a 6-month period if it comes from a place of self-respect. I know that sounds a bit weird, and I'll explain it. A lot of the time, transformations and challenges and whatnot can come from changing the body, which is great. I feel like if you change your body, you change your moment. If you change your mind, you have the potential to change your life. Self-respect was what I learned as a coach if I can teach individuals to have self-respect and operate from self-respect, doesn't matter how you look, doesn't matter on, your choices all the time. It doesn't matter on things always being perfect. I was sick at the start of the week, as you were as well. The self-respect choice for me was to not train. But when I used to be in that mindset of more, growth, I would have gone to the gym because that's the right thing to do. You're pushing, you're progressing. Your slogan is
here to win.
Yeah, why? What's the approach? Like, man, your Instagram is hectic and the business you do have is so sick. Like, everyone looks fucking insane. There's that real aspect behind it of, be better, push harder, you can do more, believe in yourself, like go after and go for it. Why the slogan? Why the approach?
Yeah, so here to win, it is just a self-belief. I think similar to you, having that self-respect, I think for myself, it's self-belief, because that's really the one thing that, everyone needs to hit certain goals and to transform their life. Like, if they don't at first even believe in themselves, then nothing is ever going to happen. Nothing. So here to win really came from me looking at my whole entire life and trying to understand, like, who am I? How the fuck did I get here? What's pushing me? What's driving me all the time? Because as I mentioned before, I feel like there's always been something within me driving me. So it's been a combination of looking back at my whole life, looking back at certain situations that I've went through and pushed through, and understanding, like, how did I get through that? Like, just reviewing all that stuff. And all I could come to was I've just always had this self-belief. I've always had a belief in myself that I'm going to do something. I'm here for a reason, and I'm here to win. I'm here to win my life. Like, it's not you're here to win a certain marathon event or a CrossFit event or a bodybuilding comp. You're just here to win your struggles. You're here to win your challenges. You're here to win whatever it is you're going through. And you have to believe that, right? Because if you believe that, eventually you're going to win. Like, that's where it's come from. And then I think over the course of my coaching career, like, I speak to guys every day on consultation calls. Some guys, 40, 50 years old, that literally tell me in their own words, like, they've never felt confident in their whole life. Like, they hate the way they look. They've never had, self-belief, all these pain points, right? So I want to be able to have a coaching brand, have a coaching team, have a coaching product that can help these clients first start believing that they are here to win. And that could just be, starting to win your day, win, a certain step goal or something like that, because everything just takes a bit of time with consistency. And then, before you know it, with that daily belief of you're here to win your life, like, clients will start to run marathons or half marathons or do shit that they never thought they could have done. And it's all started from a belief. So that's where that here to win has come from, both looking at the leads and the clients that I speak to every day, and then looking at my whole entire life and just understanding the only thing that has got me to where I am is self-belief. Yes, a bit of hard work and all the rest of it on top, but without that self-belief initially, I would have kept doing what I was doing back coming out of school. I wouldn't have wanted to progress because I didn't believe I could do it.
How does someone build self-belief from your perspective?
Yeah, from my perspective, building self-belief comes from first doing something a little bit challenging, a little bit out of your comfort zone, and doing something out of your comfort zone that's challenging you to start to transform your mindset and show you that you are capable. So, it could be the first goal of running 2 kilometers for someone who's never run before, right? Just believe that you can run 500 meters and continue doing that, and then slowly you're going to hit that 2K goal.
Love that.
Right? So it's just slowly step by step, having some sort of challenge, some sort of goal, some sort of task that's pushing you closer towards that challenge to eventually build more and more and more self-belief.
Yeah, stacking your resume is the first one. The second one is sticking to what you say you're going to do. I feel like self-belief, self-trust, self-respect is cultivated from saying it or thinking it and then doing it. So many people have major potential, but they lack the trust in themselves or the belief because they say it and then don't do it. I'll start on Monday. I'll start January 1st. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next time. I can't. Just all this language that just compiles on. There's no wonder that there's no action or change that comes from it. But that idea of saying, I will, and then doing it. So I talked about this in another episode. I've really been pushing myself to stick to a 3-2-1. Doesn't fucking matter how long it takes me to count down. I could, whatever it is, whether it's a half marathon, whether it's a rock jump, whether it's a fucking ride a bike with a suitcase and a backpack and 30 kilos of podcast equipment. It doesn't matter how long it takes me to count down 3-2-1, but the minute I do it, I stick to it. And that's learning to really stick to what you say, because if you learn to stick to what you say, you then learn to trust yourself. If you learn to trust yourself, you build self-respect. And by building self-respect, I feel like you're guided in the decisions you make. You know, I don't drink alcohol at all, but if I'm going to go to a party and it's a mate's 21st or it's a wedding or it's something like that, it feels like the right choice to me. And it only feels that way from the self-respect built from saying it and doing it with the right things over and over and over. I want to take this a little bit left. It's a concept that I've thought about. You ice bath, yeah? How long do you ice bath for? How long are your rounds?
Usually 3-4 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to strip it back to 2. I feel like there is I'll see if you actually understand this without me even explaining it. If you're going to do a 2-minute ice bath round, are you a 1 minute 58 second person or a 2 minute and 2 second person?
2 minute and 2 second person.
4 seconds is a minute, minuscule, fucking small difference. But in terms of how actually drastically different that is massive. Do you understand that concept? That if you're someone who just before or just after, like what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I definitely understand that. And I think that almost comes back towards goals, I think, like having big, ambitious goals that you need to be super locked in for. If you're cheating reps or if you're cheating having shortcuts, stuff like that, you got to understand that, someone's watching or someone could be watching or, you got to kind of have that mentality. So I think it's almost like more so who you are as a person because, to bring it back down to my rugby days when we'll do running around the field and stuff like that, if you cut corners, just little stuff like that, they're little decisions that you're not just cutting a corner here today in training, but you're cutting a corner in other areas as well. So I think it more so comes back to how important your goals are, how locked in your vision is, and then who you are as a person as well. Because if you can honestly say to yourself, I'm someone that never cuts corners, I do everything 100%, yada, 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 but you actually don't, then in some way that has to, affect you mentally or inside because you're not truly being who you say you're being. So I think it really comes down to who you are as a person, I think more so. But to build on that, it's just a realization. You have to realize that those little easy shortcuts that you are taking, yes, it's 2 seconds, yes, it's cutting a corner, but they're going to be evident elsewhere in your life as well, especially when shit gets hard, especially when, the goal's so far away and there's competition or, you have to do your recovery or something like that. That's where those little 2-second short cuts and easy decisions will start to creep into big miscalculations and come to your goal or come to your event, you're so far behind because of these small little shortcuts that you've crept in because of who you are ultimately. So I think it's just a realization.
Are you who you are, or are you who you choose to be?
I think you are who you are. Yeah, I think you are who you are. I think because I mean, if you're choosing who to be, you could choose someone every year. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, you are you. You've always been you. You've always had the same, makeup, ability, potential, everything. You've always had that. But if you're choosing to be someone else, or if you're choosing to be someone you're not, then I just don't feel like you're aligned or you're being true, I think. So I think you are who you are. But if you're not realizing who you are or who you could be, then that's where you could choose to be someone else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, I haven't thought of it in that perspective. So this is a weird way to explain it, but almost like a yin and yang. So you just express the yang version of it. I feel like we choose who we are, but it ties in directly with what you just said in a different way. I agree. People can fake choose who they want to be and all this bullshit, but they are who they are at the end of the day. I feel like personally, you choose who you are in the small choices, because I can't say to you, oh, you're just a party football player, like that's who you are, because you chose to be someone and something different. That is who you are today. But I agree. I feel like people can pretend and fake all this bullshit, but at the end of the day, you are exactly who you are. But I feel like who you are at the core can be cultivated and changed by choice. What we were talking about before with the 2 seconds shaved off and the cutting corners, it's like I said it earlier in the episode, it's the same as paying the tax man. If you're telling everyone, you're doing this, you're doing that, it sounds great, and you're faking all of these surface level actions, you still have to fucking pay your taxes at the end of the day. You can make out like you're putting away your X amount, but you're going to come up short come time to deposit what you need to. I love this thought. I have a mate who does CrossFit, so he's a touring athlete. He made it to the one before the games. Whenever we're sharing meters or calories on the rower, we always stick to our 10. So if we're doing 10 sharing, he might go to 10 jump off, but then it ticks over to 13. I'll get on and I'll go to 23. I'm not just going to go to 20. And I've done classes in the past where we're supposed to do 10 cal efforts or 200 meters, and I'll do 200 and then it'll tick over to 230. The next person gets on, they only go to the 400. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Man, the only thing that comes to my mind is someone's watching. That's because that's how I view it. If I feel like I'm cheating or not doing, as you say, the allocated reps when I should be, someone's watching. Someone's watching me cheat. Someone's watching me take that shortcut. And for me, that plays on who I am as a person and like my character, because I feel like I'm failing myself by having, that easy shortcut sort of thing. So yeah, that's how I view it, because don't get me wrong, those thoughts come into my head when I'm absolutely cooked and, I want to pull up a couple of seconds short, or I want to skip my core session at the end of a big leg day or whatever it is. But I think over time, having that ability to just truly understand what my potential is and who I am, and always honing in on that, because my potential wouldn't be skipping shit, wouldn't be missing reps, wouldn't be in who I want to be, wouldn't be doing that shit. So that's how I look at it. I look at it as someone's watching, someone's seen me bitch out at something or like not hit those reps or whatever it is. And for me, that pushes me to always make sure that I am who I want to be, who I say I'm going to be.
Yeah, that's a similar concept in a different thought process of it. I think of it as my future self will know. So whether I'm saying to everyone I'm doing all these things and then I'm not doing it, my future self's going to have to deal with that. And it's that same concept that things are going to have to be done. You have to do it. It's just when you choose to do it. in a different way. So, you know, I can be doing my running intervals and pushing really hard now. So then my future self will breathe better, have a healthier heart, be living better and more fulfilled. I could skip that shit now. And no, my future self doesn't have to fucking run intervals, but he has to pay the price of my lacking choices, my, cutting corners and those things now. I love the 2 second idea is something I love so much, and it tells me so much about someone. You know, if you're doing hill sprints, do they stop after the top of the hill, like 2-3 meters past the line, or do they stop just before and walk the rest? If you're doing a 5K, do they pull up at 4 kilometers and fucking 990 meters? Like, I feel like personally, that concept idea tells me a lot about a person and the way they view themselves and the self-respect that they have. As a coach, what is the biggest struggle you see either amongst humans or your clients specifically?
Biggest struggle with clients, I think, as a coach, it is for me just that realization that they don't understand how much they could achieve, or they don't understand how far they could push, or they don't understand what they're truly capable of, because one, they've probably lived a life, never been challenged, or never stepping into that arena, or never understanding how strong they are, or fit they could be, or how good they could look. Like that for me is that's where I get the biggest satisfaction as a coach, seeing them go from someone who, you know, couldn't see that potential that they had, couldn't see them tick off that amazing goal. And then, you know, fast forward 6 months, they're a completely different person. So I think that is the biggest area for me that I see people struggle with, because it's so easy for them to, you know, not accept that challenge because it seems too hard, because again, that self-belief, oh, it's too hard, I can never do that. So they continue being the exact same. They continue living with poor habits, not training, eating like crap because apparently it's too hard. But they just didn't even give it a go. They didn't even try. And by trying over and over again, you slowly start to get to that period where they've fully transformed. So I think that's the biggest area where people struggle. They just don't even realize how much they could achieve by, you know, putting in a bit of hard work. And just being consistent and being at it.
There is someone out there experiencing twice the amount as you are. They're half the skill of what you are yourself, but they're just doing the work. Like, I love that cliche that someone out there with half your skill is seeing double what you are, purely because they gave it a go. They said it, they did it, they actioned it. That burning desire you just express, I share that amongst people, and I wish people could see the world the way I do, because more times than not, I see more potential for someone than they see for themselves. Like, I look at a human and hear the way they speak, and it's just excuse and lies, and then they don't think they can do it. And I'm sitting here like, I can fucking see through your bullshit, and I can see you're navigating through pain and avoidance, and you have the potential to do it. And it actually is something that almost pisses me off. It almost agitates me in the most positive, healthy way of like, I just want to shoulder shake almost everyone and be like, how the fuck, like, do you not see this? Why? So social media for me has always been a bitch to grow. It's always, I don't know what it is, and it's not a poor me, or I might just not have the skills. I really want to crack 10K on the gram, and I just can't for some reason. And one thing that annoys me is so many of my friends or people I know are fucking funnier than me, fitter than me, or look better than me. And I'm like, you could be so much bigger on Instagram than I am. And I'm bigger than them because they're in the coaching space. I'm not saying Instagram is the be all and end all, but in the coaching space where social media is a big deal. And in my head, I'm like, fuck, you can be so much bigger than I am, or so much bigger than so many people I know. But you're letting someone like me do more and see more than you purely because you're just not trying. You're just not going after it. I learned something this morning. It's a word called metanoia. And the definition, super short, is changing one's heart. I used to be someone that called myself the results-based coach. All I cared about was six packs and fat loss as fast as possible, sharing 10 kilos down in 4 weeks and all shit that I don't align with now. I don't think that's wrong. I don't think it's a bad thing. Every coach does their own thing. But I love that metanoia, that word, because I think we share equally in that experience. Our approach to coaching is changing one's heart, changing their heart from lacking self-belief and lacking the thought that they're always going to lose or it's not possible for them, into that idea that they can win, they will win if they choose it. Self-respect will change so much of their life. It's really fucking cool.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I 100% agree. And like changing someone's heart, I guess like that comes from having a deep understanding of that means that you've obviously changed your own sort of heart on a few things, right? Otherwise, it's just words.
Of course.
So I think coming back to like as us being coaches and you having that feeling of just wanting to shake these people because you see what they can't see. That's just because, at heart, we're coaches.
Yeah.
We want to change those hearts because that's possibly in our DNA, because it's such a big part of our life. Seeing people change their hearts and change their life and change their perspective on things. I know as a coach, it's a fucking amazing feeling seeing people win, and it's like addictive. So I 100% agree with that.
This might sound a little bit morbid, but I feel like death or someone passing away has changed my life more than anything, because I'm always stripped back to the core at a funeral, or, when you see people gathering and remembering and whatnot. It fucking burns me up inside to think that we have 100 years, give or take, and more times than not it's less than. It fucking eats me up inside to think some people will live that 100 years and not be proud of themselves, not be confident, not be happy. Like, it's something that I can't express it. There's this really gross feeling inside that just eats at me, that I can't help everyone see the difference, or I can't allow everyone to live their maximized life. But that thought process of, we have one shot. Imagine the regret you would feel when you're laying on the hospital bed. I didn't take my shirt off. I was insecure. I didn't ask that girl out. I was scared. I didn't start that business. I didn't want to fail. I didn't do that marathon. I didn't think I could. I didn't train at that other gym. I was scared. I didn't go overseas because it was stressful. Like, it maybe is there's positives and negatives to that thought process, but I always think through that lens of, like, when I'm in hospital, when I'm older in a nursing home, or, at the end of my road, will I be proud, or will I be regretful of my choices? So a question I have to you is, and I ask this to all my clients to really understand what they're doing versus what they could. If you had 6 months left to live, what would you change?
What I would change would be sharing everything that I know every single day, so I can help impact as many people as I possibly can inside that 6 months. Because ultimately that's my mission, that's my goal. I truly believe I'm here to influence, motivate, and impact millions worldwide, that they're here to win. So obviously, if my time's cut short, I want to be sending that message out constantly, because I've only got 6 months. Because for me, that's going to make me feel fulfilled, because that's my mission. That's what I believe in.
I know you do it now, but the follow-up question I always love is, like, why don't you do that?
Yeah, I think bringing up that funeral example that you had, it's perspectives, right? Like, when you're having a perspective view of, okay, it's life or death, it makes you think, fuck, okay, like, I got to get my shit together, because there's only this option, it's going to end. Whereas when you go through the day-to-day life, and that the end or the death sort of element isn't there, you just don't think of it, So it's something that I think is always a work in progress, realizing, fuck, I could be doing more. I need to be doing more. I need to be doing more of what I want to be doing, because this life, it's going to end soon. My time is going to run out eventually. So I think using that example is really good, because it's just that perspective shift, like it is going to run out. The time's going to go. So you can't really waste much time, even though life happens and life moves fast and stuff like that. I think it's a good point, because it's really important to always be mindful of how much time you do have to make the most of the opportunities that you do have.
I ask that question to myself all the time, just to reflect on if I'm aligning to the life I want to live. So when I was in Australia, 2 months ago now, if I had 6 months left to live, I don't want to be in Australia. I don't want to be in this routine, head down, going to the gym, struggling to get a smile from someone, go to bed, repeat. And that's why I changed. I went after it. It's almost cliche to say, but we navigate life like we have so much promised time. Like we are future thinking creatures. We know we are here in a week's time, or at least we think we know. But like, it's not guaranteed. It's never guaranteed. Nothing's ever guaranteed, but especially time. And that idea of, the concept of 6 months left to live, I changed this, and this. Okay, so why don't you? Oh, I don't know. Like, I have longer than that. It's like, you fucking might not. I did a podcast. I don't know. I did a podcast with this young bloke from Queensland, and he was quite hostile in the fitness industry, Jackson Tippett. Had a lot of opinions about him and all these things. And he's just a young bloke like you and me. And we did it a couple months back now. He went to Turkey and he fucking passed away. And it was so eye-opening for me. You see celebrities, pass away, and it's like, that sucks, but they're a celebrity, it's distant. Someone I had sat down with, like yourself, dove really deep with and understood certain things about why they are the way they are, and then they had passed away. Like, I'm sure that Jackson had dreams and visions of the future and goals, but he can't live them out now because he didn't fucking allow for that time. Yeah, it's such a...
Yeah, I think it's hard because it's hard to put your mindset on the fact that, okay, fuck, I only have 6 months to live, and it's hard to get your message across, or get what you need to get done, or focus on those sort of things that you want to accomplish inside that 6 months. It's a good way to look at it, though, because it pushes you to always be wanting to do more. And it's funny because, like you said, why don't you, or why don't we? It's probably just because we don't fully believe that, that 6 months is going to end. Yeah, it's a hard one, but I think for like everyone out there with goals or with ambitions or with dreams, or if they're stuck in certain situations that they really want to get out of, they have to look at it like that as well. Why are you still stuck in the same situation 6 months ago? If you're complaining about either your work, relationship, or occupation, or whatever it is, life happens, so many things happen, people get distracted, you can get off course. But I think it's a good way to look at it, to always make sure, or give yourself a bit of a review of how you're going. Have I done enough? Could I be doing more?
Yeah, it's a massive accountability check. When you're training and you're deep in the pain cave, whether the pain cave is you've been on the erg and it's 90 minutes in and you got half an hour to go, whether it's just volume of absolute kilos on your muscles. Normally it's more lactic, cardio based is where I'm directing this question. What are your driving factors? Like, what are those thoughts you have in your head to not get off the machine? Because it's like with running. Nothing is forcing you to take the next step other than your own self putting your foot in front of the other again and again and again. What drives you to not stop, to not quit, to not give it up?
Yeah, I just love it. Hey, I love it. I love the challenge. I love the feeling of feeling fitter, stronger. I love, especially when it's hard and especially when it's tough, not giving in, or it's almost like a relationship between those negative thoughts, like, fuck, I can't take it anymore, fuck, I want to give up, and almost overriding those thoughts and self-talk and saying, no, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. that little battle is something that I truly love, because I know that those little battles are the ones that really count. Those little battles are the ones that really add up and stack up. And those are the battles that you grow from, because if you give in to those negative thoughts about quitting or not giving it your best, or let's just go 80% today when I could have went 100, those are the real ones that you're missing out on building and sculpting and cultivating not only your physique, but your mindset, because you're like, fuck me, I was almost tapping out then, but I pushed through. That's a huge tick. That's a huge win. Add that to the list, and then you go again, the next time, and it just stacks and builds. So I think just knowing myself in those sort of situations and falling in love with those situations is what helps. Because if you don't love that situation, of course it's going to be hard to continue, and you're more than likely just going to give up because you've done a pretty good job. So you got to understand that those little battles are the biggest ones you want to win, because it's just like life. Those challenges, those hard times that you go through, once you win those hard times, they end up being your biggest growth spurts, your biggest new directions. Everything's like connected with fitness, with training, with life, with work, whatever it is. And that's really why I love fitness, because I can see that connection not only with how I train and how my mindset is, but in business, in life, and other challenges that life puts on me. From handling those challenges in training, I'm just able to navigate and handle those challenges so much easier, because I know there's a big growth about to come from them.
Yes, that's growth mindset. I love that. I love the difference of how we all use tools to navigate certain things. So I put a reward system in place for my mind when it comes to the pain cave. Now, not an actual reward, but like I said before, I'm so relentless on sticking to what I say I'm going to do, because I watch so many people say, I'm going to start a podcast. 2 episodes in, they can it. I'm going to go online coaching. They stay PT face-to-face for years and years. I'm going to travel the world, and they don't. And I've just seen so much of that. I don't want to be that in any sense. So I've learned to stick to my word so relentlessly that if I'm running, and let's say 10K for me is a decent run, I'm 105 kilos, so the old joints fucking copper beating. If I'm on the 9th K, I'll put something in my mind, like if I don't run this extra kilometer, I'll lose my car, and I have my dream car at the moment. Or if I'm on the erg and it's like I have 15 minutes left, if I don't do these 15 minutes, I'll lose the apartment that I live in, or this bad thing's going to happen. Like I put these weird little scenarios in play, which aren't true. And I could easily be like, well, that's bullshit, I'm not going to stick to it. But because I have this weirdly great relationship with the words I speak, no matter what it is, I'm going to stick to it. So it's like, even I made the joke of it before, but coming here with the gear, like it almost felt like I actually wasn't going to be able to come here. I'll post a photo about it. It's going to be funny. But I'll put in my head, it's like, if I don't get there and film that podcast and edit it today and get it out, this is going to happen. But then I'll also do positive rewards where if I get there and do it and film it and put it out, this good thing might happen. I've been thinking of this thought recently from a book I read called Essentialism, which off camera I recommended to you before we started the episode. And it's an idea that we overstress our range of options, but under care about our ability to choose. So we're always fixated on having these options, this wide range of things we could do, but we're so lacking in the skill of being able to choose. Like what's your thought process when I say something like that?
Yeah, so over stressing on the options.
Yeah, so we're as a human, like we're fixated on the options. I want to be able to do this, and this. I need to have this. So we're always cultivating and having so many free options, but we're losing the skill of being able to just fucking choose one.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's, a mix of where today is at, with so many distractions, so many different options. The world's moving so quick. Having the ability to focus, I think, on one thing is almost like a superpower.
Yeah.
Especially this day and age, when the majority of people that want to do this, want to do that, want to do this, want to do that, over 6 months, they actually end up achieving nothing, because they've spread themselves out too far, they've burnt themselves out, they haven't built up that, I guess, resilience or discipline or effectiveness to handle certain different tasks. And being able to focus on one thing is incredibly hard to do, especially with, phones, technology, everything, right? So I think being able to focus on one thing and just know what you want to focus on is more important, I think, because that allows you to focus controlled on one thing. So having an understanding of what you want to focus on, I think, is more important, because if it's not something that you enjoy, if it's not something that you want to be doing, then you're most likely not going to be focused. So yeah, having the ability to enjoy what you want to be doing, understanding where this could potentially take you if you stick at it and follow it through, is important as well, because if you can't stick to it, just like training, just like goals, if you can't stick to a nutrition plan, like, you're not going to lose your body fat that you're after, right? So yeah, I think controlled focus and understanding what it is that you truly want to do is almost a superpower, because you'll move so much quicker, you'll move so far ahead of everyone else who is undecided or, just wants to see or do this, and this,
Into that camera there, what is one piece of advice, a comment or a thought you want to leave from you to my listeners?
Speaking on, I guess, the common theme that we've had here today is just that self-belief. Like I mentioned earlier, that starts everything. If you don't have belief in yourself to hit a certain goal or live a certain lifestyle that you want to be living, especially if you're stuck or sick of certain things in your life, it starts by having that belief that you can do it. You can achieve more. You are here for more, because that's something that I truly believe in. Everyone is here for a reason. Most people just don't understand what that reason is yet, and that's where they get lost and distracted. So I think having that self-belief and understanding what your reason is probably the biggest lesson.
Starting out the year with an absolute fucking banger. That is episode 12. If you tuned in on YouTube, I appreciate you so much. Please like the video and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, I appreciate you just as much. I'm going to tag Con's Instagram down in the description below. Please check it out, because it is very motivating. And there's a lot of alignment between the mission of this podcast and the coaching that you do. But bro,
thanks very much, mate.
I appreciate having you on.